Hey guys, it is December 4th, 2025 here with your after hours recap. We will try to keep it short and easy today. So today the sector that was performing the absolute best was the powering the data center theme, whether it's through nuclear, renewable energy, and the names that were acting best. I had a few of these on watch last night. CCJ, and we talked about a few of these during pre-market prep as well. CCJ, CEG, and GEV. Now, maybe not the best close for a CEG, but GEV absolutely fantastic. You know, right over that 109 pivot. Really, really nice to see. Went up and closed all the way at $609 pivot. Closed all the way at 630, and then CCJ as well. Again, I thought that this was really good, right around 90 bucks. Really, really nice push into the close. And then BE, another one, just a move right back through the 50 simple moving average. Yesterday was a super, super tight day, and basically getting right through that $105 level. I know a few guys in the room, congratulations getting long on this name. I know that they bought this right over pre-market high levels, about 103 and a half, 104 bucks. So that is really, really good to see. You also had a couple of names that I thought continued to perform well, namely PATH on earnings. This was very good. And then tonight in after hours, we have Rubric on earnings, gapping up quite a bit, back up over the 200 simple moving average. So that is really, really nice to see. 79 bucks, back above the 200. Fantastic numbers, top and bottom. This will definitely be a name that I keep my eye on. When this thing trends, it can trend really nicely. You know, I could see a report like this, you know, kicking this name back into an uptrend as well. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And then finally, you had all of the speculative stuff, and we talked about these as well in the room. You had all of the speculative stuff kind of coming to life today that had just gotten beaten up in a really large way, one leg down, two leg down, and then you just consolidated, and then today you started to break to the upside. Now, I didn't cover my Rigetti right away. I waited more towards the end of the day, thinking that at some point we might start to reject, but finally, when towards the end of the day we were closing above the 20, I officially let Rigetti go. So still a nice trade from 37 bucks. I had a very, very small piece left, so just, you know, good to get out of it. Kind of a clean slate. I did the same thing with OKLO. Kind of a clean slate. You went and you closed above the 20 simple moving average. Almost closed it earlier, like at 100 bucks in the morning, but I didn't do that. And then I just, again, small position, just let it squeeze all day. And then once I realized, like, hey, you know, this thing's not really rolling over into the close, let's just go ahead and get out of here. So that is exactly what I did with OKLO. And then I also took a piece off of iron, you know, as it was kind of clearing the 10 SMA and trying to close above. You know, I don't really care to stay married to this stuff for too long anyway. I'd prefer to be bullish in a bullish environment. With that said, I do have Netflix as a short, and this one did try to roll over just a little bit, and ultimately we are in a stage 4 downtrend for now. So that is just one to, you know, kind of avoid if you are bullish on Netflix, you know, until it gets back above the 200. For me, I'm bearish on Netflix, so I am short this name at the moment. And it was just like kind of one of those environments where you look at something like Intel, and you know, you talk about this double top short sale level, and this was one that I tried into that level just a few days ago, and then that did not work. I ended up getting stopped out of that, you know, into this push. And then today, just as you were breaking that $42.50 level, you know, you kind of came back, retested those exact highs, and then you just rolled over all day long. I think, you know, somebody said it best. It felt like a little bit of degrossing, which just means institutions are kind of taking some, you know, profits off the table, whether it be on the long side and you see something like Intel, whether you see something like Apple, or on the flip side, you know, I don't look at a Rigetti or a QUBT or an OKLO as renewed uptrends. You look at it as just a short covering rally, and you get institutions kind of clearing the book, you know, on the long side, hence the reason you get a pullback in a name like Google. It's been a big winner. You get a pullback in a name like Apple. It's been a big winner. And then all of a sudden, you know, you get a big loser recently, which is probably names that have been, you know, heavily shorted over the last few weeks. and you've got some big winners in there too on the short side, and you got to buy those to get out. So it's just, some institutional covering, and just kind of deleveraging the book. I think that's kind of what was going on today. That's what it felt like. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. But no, honestly, that's kind of what it felt like. You get just a little bit of deleveraging going on across books, right? Shorts being covered. Same with me, right? Just finally going ahead and getting out of some of the shorts. And then, some of your biggest winners getting sold off just a little bit. Nothing wild or crazy, but just a little bit of a pullback. And same thing even with a name like Lilly, right? It's been a big winner, deleverage some of the book, and then you just get this like steady little unwind in a name like that. Otherwise, I thought it was a pretty decent day. You saw a little bit of an unwind in the home builders, which was a sector that was moving pretty well yesterday. But on the flip side, biotechs continued to act pretty dang well. Banks, I thought, were acting pretty dang well. You look at like a Goldman Sachs, you look at like a Citigroup. I thought that, these are just fantastic, just continuing higher. So some winners just continue higher. And then really there's profit taking in other places. So like not much of a big relevant day. In my opinion, it was nice to see my long in Tesla from yesterday just continue higher. Today got picked up really nicely right at the end of day. And ultimately stocks that are performing well on earnings, they are continuing to hold up. So that is really nice to see. And the metals continue to hold in there pretty well. Copper continues to hold in there pretty well. And so that'll be, some things to kind of keep an eye on. And there are some speculative stuff like ONDS continues to look pretty dang good. Lemonade, I think, continues to look pretty constructive here within this consolidation. So yeah, even a Reddit, another one that just also continues to look pretty constructive here. Nothing wrong with it. Starting to establish itself above the 50. That is nice to see. And then you've got obviously, a leadership name like Hood just looking absolutely amazing. Beautiful undercut and reclaim of the September low. Beautiful undercut and reclaim of that October 22nd low when a bunch of names bounced. So very, very good action there. Again, good action in the kind of renewable energy sector. So definitely something to keep an eye on going forward. And then, you had a little bit of market volatility today, which just continues to get bought up, right? You just look at the QQQ, just look at this thing on the hourly, and you recognize that every single day there's a yank, it gets bought right back up, and a yank and bought right back up, and a pull and bought right back up. So that's just kind of the environment that we're in for now, right? Pullbacks continue to be absorbed. Daily closes continue to act pretty well. Today was effectively like Nick brought it up in the room. It was like the first time since, we pulled the undercut and rally on the Friday the 21st, where today's close was lower than where it opened. Right? Does that really mean anything? Not really, considering this is a little bit, V-shaped recovery, not the cleanest, right? We could go for some back and filling. We could probably go up a little bit higher, tighten up. That would be perfectly fine. And meanwhile, the IWM, which contains a lot of regionals, which contains a lot of biotechs, this is a sector that continues to look absolutely fantastic. And you've just built a really big base here over a while, which, you're kind of trying to push on out of. Do we just continue to run into that rate cut? I think that it's possible, in particular for the IWM. So that is really nice to see. And like I said, some of the more speculative names, whether it was your Quantum, again, look at your Rigetti. This, starts to find a low and then turn back up. And I would remind everybody, when you make a really big move like this, look at how long you consolidated for. When you make a really big move like this and you get beaten up, remember how long these consolidations can last, right? I would warn anybody to think that, just because I covered that means my thought process is this is going back to an all-time high. That is not my thinking at all. Maybe back into the 50-day. I think that that's totally possible. And everywhere you look today, whether it was quantum, nuclear, data centers like Cypher, or even rare earths today like USAR, right? I would just caution anybody for seeing one nice up day that, these names are just now in some new established uptrends. That's just far too premature to say something like that. And again, it's not just USAR, it was UAMY, it was CRML. It's like MP is trying to turn up. They're all doing the exact same thing again, which kind of leads you to believe that it is just a little bit of the degrossing of the books on some institutions on the institutional side, which is just get out of some of your big winners, and that would include the short side, which means you got to kind of buy to get out. And that's kind of what the action felt like today. I'm assuming that any pushes into the 50-day will probably be a spot that I will be looking at myself for a potential short again. But really, there are still quality stocks out here that continue to move higher. Names that are winning on earnings continue to win after the fact. And, seeing a name like Rubrik, again, this is very healthy, really nice to see. And even, today, look at how massive this move is. And then even, the airlines, which we talked about yesterday, you go up so many days in a row, right? And I've been talking about this, like there is no setup. I see the strength, but there's nothing I can do with this. So seeing this pull back for a day, nothing wrong with it at all. I'd like to maybe get involved in some of the airlines, maybe something like United, down the road, and you just get a nasty little pullback. Well, that's kind of what happens when you go up 6, 7, 8 sessions in a row. Things snap back too. You can't go just vertical every single day. So it's good to kind of see these things pull back and then hopefully tighten back up, build a high type flag, and then we are off to the races. So today, I would kind of label it as, the poop stocks bounce. The over beaten up stocks, the rare earths, the quantums, the nuclears, finally bounce. Again, look at a name like SMR, right? This isn't the start of some brand new uptrend. Could this very well be the bottom? Yeah, maybe. Or could we just run into the 200 simple moving average and then roll back over? Maybe. What I do know for a fact is there is ton of supply in here, probably a zillion bag holders that would one day just love price to go back to their average so that they can get out. So I'm not going to make too much out of, yes, a 13% up day, and yes, sitting in OKLO going from 80 to 113, not the most entertaining thing, even on teeny tiny size. But I did it. I wanted to follow my rules. It closed back above the 20. It was time to get out. So, there's that. And I'll deal with some of these names, even if some of these names start to get beaten up tomorrow, even something like QUBT coming back through the 200 simple moving average, I would be more than happy to short a name like that again. And on the flip side of the market, a name like Rubrik, a name like Path, AppLovin, if it'll finish setting up, I think looks pretty interesting. If Robinhood will just slow down for a moment as well and give me a spot, a higher low would be fantastic. SCCO, another name for copper, I think looks really dang good. And just EQT, although it had a pullback today, it's just kind of just been straight up the right hand side, kind of wedging into this left side peak. Never my favorite kind of action, but the longer we build sideways here, the tighter we get. This could be a beautiful breakout really even into tomorrow. The less extended we get, the better. Commodities are always better, in my opinion, to be bought off of ascending moving averages. So yeah, we'll just continue to take it from there. Still plenty of merchandise, still lots of nice stocks working their way higher. Today the market was choppy, almost to be expected. Don't just make a big deal out of every 5-minute move down or up. Ultimately, you kind of almost got to give things to the close. And, Caterpillar, another one that I'll mention, I shook myself out yesterday only to see it literally hit the 20, bounce, rally all day, push up higher today. Very, very frustrating, but that's just part of the thing where maybe sizing down just a little bit, recognizing the environment you're in. Pullbacks into ascending moving averages are a whole lot better. We're in a choppy market, but a going up market, as PBA said, and I think he put it perfectly. You're in a choppy but going up market, so that's just important to kind of contextualize. So, names just want to come and shake you out, but then they go ahead and they rip. So just food for thought, and hopefully you guys all traded really well today, and I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. Cheers.